Hello, everyone. It's Monday at 5. The Knicks sweep. Should I say that again? The Knicks sweep. That and more on Sports Live with Steve and Justin. Justin, how are you?
At least we're consistent. I'm good, Judge.
At
How are
least
you?
we're consistent. Last week I was like asleep on my feet, and Justin had to go to the hospital and with his son, and everything turned out great, thank God. But I watched the video back, and I don't think I've laughed that hard in such a long time. I mean, I would like start a sentence and stop, and then there'd be a pause, and then I would continue. And like I would categorize like a player, like I can't remember who it was, and I'd say, "You know who I'm talking about." And she's like, "Well, I'm not a sports fan. Who are you talking about?" I said I couldn't remember his name. I think it was Don Mattingly at Philadelphia or something. I really couldn't. I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember his name. So whatever it was I was talking about, I couldn't remember the name, and I used some colorful caricature to make up. But how you doing, Just?
I'm good. Speaking of Don Mattingly, I have the gift catalog that you presented me last time I saw you,
Yeah,
which I've
there's
made
more
room for
stuff.
here and
There's
there.
more stuff, and I got
Yeah,
that
this is
Yankee book. I'm going to give you. I think I had gotten some autographs in it. I paged through it. I couldn't find any, but I don't think they were big players. But I did think I had somebody sign it.
somewhere I'm hoping in my garage, there's a Yankees, one of those programs you get at the stadium with the scorecard and everything. And it's
Yeah,
got Phil Rizzuto's autograph on it. And I'm just hoping that it's not in a box that sustained any water damage.
right. I have a whole slew of those, like from the 50s. I have a World Series one game program. I have ticket stubs from the Yankee Stadium, the 1927 games and the World Series, and it just sits somewhere. I mean, you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah,
So,
it's a lot of my stuff is in the garage, not on display,
right.
and,
So,
I'm at that point in my life where if I don't display it, it's time to go.
what are we going to say about the Knicks? And I'm going to push a button. Hopefully, the Knicks score comes up, and it does. So, I mean, amazing, amazing, and Justin, and I'll read it to you. Justin sent me the things I sent him, the crazy stuff I sent them. So the Knicks are the fourth team, and Justin sent me this, NBA history with 30-point series clinching wins in a single season. Now, the Knicks are fourth team in history, multiple 30-point series clinching wins in a single postseason. They are joined by, ready? 2025 Thunder, 2008 Celtics, and 1987 Lakers. All three of those teams went on to win an NBA title. What are you going to say about that?
That's an incredible stat. I know a lot of people defer and say it doesn't mean anything, but
It doesn't
this
mean
is
anything, but it's an
this is
incredible
not the same
stat.
old Knicks. Yeah, this is not the same old Knicks. I mean, last week I texted you that the Knicks got a huge gift not having to play the Celtics. And I was like, well, this is just typical Knicks. They'll get a gift like this and they'll look like two different teams from one series to the next. And they just kept rolling, which is just, I mean, to sweep Philly, I don't care that they're a 7 seed. Um, because presumably Embiid was healthy. I know he wasn't 100%, but this Knicks team has been playing well on all facets. Everybody's contributing. It's not come down to just one player making a shot or having a big series. Everybody is contributing. They're shooting. It's almost like they can't miss. And they had an absolute laugher this week in the series. Really, 2 series were laughers, which is completely unusual. You just don't see that, especially with the Knicks. Not used to being on that end of the scoreboard, I don't think. Not in the a long time. And again, they've never had series clinching victories of 30 points or more for 2 series in a row. It's an incredible position for them to be in, and they can rest. I know Anunoby's hurt or injured or whatever, and they can afford to rest him, and the whole team will get some or at least a day or 2 off here, um, to kinda, ice down the bumps and bruises that come along with
Right.
the playoffs. But so far, so good. Last year with Thibodeau, I think a lot of guys, a lot of talking heads felt that it was an unjust firing, that they didn't see
I
what
agree,
the
but
Knicks
that
could have
doesn't mean they're
done
not
wrong
better.
or different, that Thibodeau, what else could he possibly do with this team? He got the most out of them that he could, and I know the Knicks finished, what is it, 3 seed or 4 seed this year with Mike Brown, but he's played this incredibly well, and he's getting the absolute most out of these guys when you need to get the most out of them, which is in the playoffs. And they're not fighting to make the playoffs. They were kind of on cruise control. I mean, they weren't fighting to win the conference and a 1 seed. And I think it's fair to say maybe the Pistons kind of, I don't want to say they came out of nowhere, but I don't think anybody had the Pistons atop the conference to start
I
the
agree.
season.
I agree with that.
Um, and anybody that had the Knicks at the top, I think, was just, biased Knicks fans. Um, I don't know how you could have expected much different from them going into the season, but now we're starting to see all these little things, and you're starting to wonder, wow, can this team make the finals? Is this team good enough to win a championship? Because the knock on the Knicks has been they don't have a guy, right? They don't have somebody to take the final shot. Who's it going to be outside of Brunson? And it's can you because there was a couple games at the end of the season where it was just give the ball to Brunson, and either he ran it out or barely got a shot off, and people were like, "This
Absolutely.
is not good." It was kind of like, "Where is this team headed?" Now all of a sudden, if you're going to win by 30 points, it doesn't matter who takes the last shot. I don't think it'll continue that way. Certainly not into the finals, but for now, the Knicks are clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah, I listen, they certainly had the Sixers number. I mean, you can't really argue with that. And the Sixers are hurt and this and that, but they still have George Paul. They still have good players. And I don't know what it is. I mean, the Sixers, speaking about the Sixers, I don't know why they play so poorly, why this goes on, why that goes on. I don't know. I don't know the answer to those questions. I know that the Knicks kind of stepped into themselves, even when they were playing well last year or whatever year you want to say, and you have to remember too, it's a big thing. When you go to play away at the Sixers, you're playing where the Villanova team plays in the playoffs. And let's not forget how many Villanova players are on the Knicks. So they felt at home to a certain extent. Matter of fact, the last banner to be raised in that place, in that arena is the word I'm looking for. The last banner to be raised in that arena is the Villanova banner.
Yeah, that's
So
incredible.
it is an incredible thing, and that's really not it either. The Knicks are a different team. It's like they came into themselves. They gained confidence. And they had confidence, but not like they have team confidence now. They had confidence in themselves as players last year. This year they have confidence in themselves as a team, I think. And also I think about them, which is interesting, is that they have become more physical.
Yeah.
And that physicality is part of today's game. That's a lead into what we're going to
I
talk
think that
about.
they've just got tough, right? Like I think like you said before, they stepped into their own. They found their groove, and they're not afraid to play anybody. I don't think they were afraid before, but I think they were still kind of feeling themselves out. The Villanova connection is huge. Obviously, when they traded away Dante DiVincenzo, that I think among the fan base, most people thought that that was like a bad move, or it really hurt. It was a big loss because you didn't have that guy
I hated it too,
that
but
make the big shot. But the guys that have replaced him collectively, they're shooting well, and they haven't really had to have that big shot, but they've gotten it from different guys. So, you know, like I said before, everybody's playing well. You know, take a guy like Mitchell Robinson, who's been hurt forever. It seems every year he couldn't stay healthy, is making big contributions off the bench. He's playing well inside. He's
Right.
rebounding. You know, he's playing like a starter. He's playing like a guy that you draft in the top of the draft. So, you know, you could say that he's, you know, finally come into his own, he's healthy and everything, but it's 1 through 12. It's not just top 6 guys, it's everybody.
I
So
agree.
they put together a pretty good roster of guys, and you know you need depth, right? I mean, we've watched how many teams have we watched in the last 10 or 15 years? They win with their depth. You know, when their starters are in a rut, they can come off the floor, and you get guys that show up big late in these games that don't get a lot of minutes and make big shots. And right now, the Knicks are getting they're getting contributions from everybody so much so that they're just blowing these guys out of the water, which is incredible because that is atypical of the Knicks, and it's certainly not something that you see every year, year in and year out, even from championship teams.
I agree. I mean, I think they're really into their own. You know, I think that a lot of fans question how good they really are, only because they've won so overwhelmingly that people are saying that maybe those teams weren't good enough to be in the playoffs. Doesn't matter how good enough they were good enough to be in there. I think it's they're better than people think. So
They're
we'll
also
see.
playing above average defense to score. You know, if they're winning games 110, 90 something, you kind of say, all right, they're decent. But you know, 120, 130, 140. You know, those are Mike D'Antoni offensive numbers. At least that's what you hoped for back when he was here. But defensively, it was never even close.
Right.
You know, to hold teams under 100 points in the even in the playoffs, uh, and win by 20 plus 30 points, you're doing an incredible job on both ends of the floor. So it's not just guys scoring; it's they're playing incredible defense as well.
Having said that, talking about the playoffs, yesterday, last night, whenever that game was, we saw a wild penalty, a wild foul, if you will,
Ejection.
that came with a penalty of ejection and a suspension or whatever for the next day. Um, there are a lot of people thought that that was a flagrant one, and I have a picture, and hopefully I'll push the right button, like I always say. And here it is right here. Now, this is prior to the assault, if you will, prior to when he hit him. And you could see he's absolutely contemplating it, and there is a windup to it, which is a big deal when you're talking about a flagrant two. And we're talking about, you know, Victor. I'm not even going to begin to try to pronounce his last name, but
Wembanyama.
Wembanyama
You just call him Wemby. That's what everybody else calls him.
is a 7'7" skinny player. And yes, in this game and others, he's been getting pushed around. And what do you do when that happens? You know, it's the old Fonzie principle. You smack them once and everybody remembers, and then they stay away from you. If anybody ever watched
Happy
Happy
days.
Days back in the day. So I think it was possible only to give him a 1, but the more I watch it, the more I believe it's a flagrant 2. I don't think it's anything, and I do think he had to be thrown out of the game or whatever you wanna call it, disqualified. I don't think they needed to give him a second day. I think they could have given him a fine. Not that money means anything to an NBA player, especially one like him that's good, and I think it reminds me of an era where there was always big players that we called, like in hockey, the enforcer, the Nick Fatios of the New York Ranger world, who would come out and foul somebody like that. And when they got suspended, you didn't care. But when your best player on a team gets suspended, it's a little bit of a different thing.
This is a different league than it was when, Dennis Rodman played or Bill Laimbeer, right? And Wemby is not that type of player. He's a young guy, right? What is this, his second year in the league?
He's young. He's
He's
gigantic.
he's still maturing, and that's not to say that he's immature because I don't believe he is. But
No, but he's maturing as a player, not as a person.
yes, yes.
I mean, he
And
may be maturing as a person, but we have no idea of
yeah,
that.
I think the frustration of the series and maybe the series before got to him and he finally had enough. And I think that was, Minnesota's plan all along was to frustrate him and beat him up. And part of the problem, I think, is that the rest of the Spurs team has not retaliated. They haven't been that physical. They are getting pushed around the floor, and they're the better team. And,
Right.
you know, I don't expect them to be like, the Pistons of the 90s or, even the Bulls with Dennis Rodman or the Spurs with Dennis Rodman. But it's in your
Right.
DNA as a championship team that your best player is out there taking a beating. Guys need to pay for that. Now, today's league
Absolutely.
is different. It's a different league they play. Everybody's friends. It's a love in most nights. Everybody's worried about protecting everybody else's future and their money, et cetera, et cetera. I get that. But at some point, you have to send a message, and it cannot be your star player sending that message if it's going to cost him time on the floor. So that nobody else was able to send that message prior to that foul, I think is a message to his teammates. Hey, enough is enough. All right. I can't take this beating every night. He is the tallest guy on the floor, but he's not necessarily the biggest guy, if that makes any sense. And
No,
I
he's
don't
skinny
expect
as
him to
could
be
be.
there. Yeah, I don't expect him to be their enforcer. And, you know, I don't think that's Minnesota's right. It's Minnesota they're playing, Minnesota's game, but clearly that's their plan uh, against Wemby in this series is to just keep, hacking him and pushing him around and
Right.
getting him uncomfortable. And it's one thing to, stand up to somebody who's pushing your team around or just have your team play tougher and accept the fouls and get another team out of their rhythm. But clearly they're going after Wemby and he's had enough. And I can't say that I blame him for, you know, throwing that elbow. It was ugly. It's something that you can't have. Obviously you don't want to see something like that because you don't want to see I mean, it could have been worse. I mean, he hit him right in the throat. He could have really done some damage.
It was a shock.
Then you enter in a whole different territory. Does he have to sit if the other guy has to miss time and all that stuff? Because I think they did that in hockey at some point where, if the guy's injured, you're gonna miss time from a flagrant or something like that. But, the rest of the team has to look at themselves and realize you've got arguably the best player in basketball on your team. And it's in the Spurs DNA. They are a championship franchise. And if you want to take that next step and you want to be that next elite team, you have to protect your player. He's your guy, he's your franchise. So you have to take the floor every night knowing that if he's going to get trampled or they're coming after him, that has to stop immediately. Somebody has to send a message. And he can't just be left out there by himself to do that.
Agreed.
And it's you do it once and that's it. And then, you go from there. Short of a bench clearing brawl, which nobody wants to see that either. And I don't think there's really any bad blood between these teams. At least that's my impression. There probably will be now. So you just hope that it doesn't escalate past this because the Spurs are good enough to win this series. They're probably good enough to challenge for the conference and then go to the finals.
Right.
So they have to understand that as a team, this is their window. They can't just think, well, we're happy to be here. We're a couple years away. No, this is it. You're in the window right now. You've got the best player. You need to go win these games and not let something like that detract from your mission through the playoffs.
So, one of the other things that happened over the weekend, I think it happened yesterday, matter of fact, on Sunday, is the 2026 NBA draft lottery, which is interesting that for for a
Yeah,
change, the worst team or the team that had the worst year last year won the lottery, and that's the Washington
the
Wizards.
team with the most ping pong balls.
Well, they had a 14% chance at the top pick. I'm reading this right here. Let me see what it says. Where does it say? Yeah, Washington, Indiana, and Brooklyn, um, all had 14%. Utah had 11.5%. Yada yada yada. Memphis had 9. New Orleans, 6.8. It's really, really interesting because nobody, and I mean nobody, doesn't think that this draft is fixed. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
think
I
it
don't know
still could be,
how
right?
I don't
Theoretically.
know how that happened. I think they did it. And now that it came out the way it should have, people think it's more fixed.
Yeah. So the throw you off the scent kind of thing. Well, last time I was on with you, we talked about the commissioner of the NFL having the first 10 picks in his pocket on a piece of paper.
Right.
Given the history of the NBA lottery draft, whatever, we know that there's been some questionable action surrounding the draft. I don't know how you fix it. I know previously I said about the NFL, just reverse the draft order and the problem is solved. But I don't think you can do that in the NBA because if the best team gets the best player coming out of college, they're gonna be hard to beat. So,
Maybe.
you know,
I mean,
short of,
Look at the
allowing
Pelicans.
yeah, it's a crapshoot for sure. It's a
The
crapshoot.
Knicks had their first pick is 20.
Yeah, I don't know
uh,
what you do with that. Maybe you
They
get
have
an
24th
international player,
and
you know
31st.
maybe you package those and move on to something for next year. I'm sure they have scouts all over the planet looking at guys on whether or not they want to draft them or bring guys in. And again, you're playing with a y- uh, much shorter roster, right? There's only 15 guys on the roster, right? And then
Right.
there's your practice players or whatever. So someone's going to lose their job, if you're drafting all these players, theoretically, if unless they're playing in the G League or whatever. But um, sure, certainly it's a little different in the NBA than it is in the NFL. Um,
So, I mean, I have some comments about, who they're talking to, everybody's going to pick, but I think given what we should save that conversation for when the rabbi's here because he knows
the
more about
rabbi
him.
will be in town. The rabbi will be in town next month.
All right. So we'll either do it on location or wherever he wanders around in the world. Whenever the CS Express, the rabbi train of the future, lands in your local town, keep an eye out. If you see a train coming to your town and a rabbi walk off, that could be our man. So we will have a NBA pick conversation with the rabbi when he's available. And the other thing we were talking about was baseball. Certainly the Yankees are playing well. Certainly the Mets are playing lousy. They have won a few games, which is an amazing feat, but whatever. And so earlier today,
Well, the Mets are 5-4 in their last 9 games. So if they win today, are they playing today? If they win their next game and they're 6-4 and their last 10, if they do that for the rest of the season, they're a playoff team.
not really.
I don't know about that.
I don't
Six and
think so.
four the
I
rest of
think,
the way. I think 6-4 the rest of the way gets them to the playoffs.
yeah, no one goes 6-4 the rest of the way.
It's a lot to ask. I understand that.
I don't know what to say. So we were having a comparison, last week and the week before. I had some conversations about basketball players and the king of all, the NBA, King James. Um, let's not forget that his contract is up at the end of this year. Whether he's coming back or not, um, who knows? Is he going to Cleveland? Is he going to the Knicks? Who knows where he goes?
Oh, I hope not. I truly hope not. I don't
Uh,
care if they were a LeBron away from winning a championship. I hope he doesn't come here.
So I have some. I'm going to put out. I think for the first time, I'm going to put together a question for people to answer and see what kind of response we get. I don't know when I'm going to do that, but it's going to be soon, and it's
I
going to
can
be.
put it on Twitter because we now have our own Twitter
You mean
or
X?
X. Yeah, sorry, X. It's
Oh,
Sports Live Pod at Sports Live Pod. So you can
all right.
actually be our first follower because we have none right now.
So yeah, I actually have poll software built into this mess that runs here, but I haven't played with it yet, so I don't know how it works. So let's do it there. I sent you a picture, and I would show you all it, but I didn't load it in because I didn't think about it tonight. And maybe if you guys could see this, I don't think you can.
No, it's not focused. There we go. That's it.
Yeah, you can't
Is
really
that the
see it.
Lakers one?
Yes, so it is. The poll will be remove the worst Laker of all time. And in other words, it is, and what I said the other day, I want you to look at this group of Lakers, famous Hall of Fame Laker players, and you tell me if you were in game 7, which guy would you pull? And I'll leave it at that. Of course, there's 5 players showing, so I don't know. Maybe we'll wait, do a better one.
I like it.
Okay. I'll send it. You have it. You could just load it up and put it out there and tell everyone where it is again.
At Sports Live Pod on X, formerly known as Twitter.
And also, we'd appreciate it if everyone likes and subscribes. Certainly, subscribe. We've really been having a run on subscribers lately, but we need so many more to really get ourselves off the ground. We're in this beginning stages of what we think is a great sports podcast where we're bringing on great interviews and great things. And any suggestions anyone has, please forward it to them. We're also on StephenJustin.com. You can get all our videos. Pretty soon we'll be running questions for conversations there as well. All right. So we started our day, Justin and I, talking about a baseball comparison, and I'll let Justin go through it, and I'll put it up.
Oh yeah, let me find it here because I can't read that right now. So I saw the tweet earlier today, and someone did it through 1,100 plus games played, and I went to look back at it because it didn't sit right with me that it was so one sided. So I redid the parameters for their first full 7 seasons each because DiMaggio, after his 7th season, didn't play for 3 years because of military service, 43, 44, and 45. So I did the first 7 seasons for each of them, which includes DiMaggio's rookie season. It doesn't include 2016 for Judge because it was only a handful of games at the ends of the season. So it was his first full 7 seasons. And the initial tweet I saw it favored Judge by a lot. I think the only 2 categories that DiMaggio led were batting and RBIs. But this one, through the first 7 seasons, which you can tell, I have to look at this. My glasses off. I can see it. They're about 100 or so plus games apart through 7 seasons. And obviously, it's interesting because DiMaggio played in 154 games per season. A Judge playing in 162 has over 100 less games, almost a full season less games than DiMaggio. So we're comparing seasons, not total games played here. So you could skew this, but I thought it was most fair to the seasons rather than at bats or games played you could do it any way you want, obviously. But 2 different eras, 2 different players. DiMaggio played in a much bigger ballpark, so you could argue that it was easier or harder to get a base hit. Certainly harder to hit home runs. Judge has a clear advantage there. Um, so it's an
So
interesting
I would,
comparison between the
yeah,
two.
and I think this came from baseballstats.com or something like that. Baseball stats, so courtesy of them, where they put it together.
Sportsreference.com. Yeah,
Sportsreference.com. So
Stathead.
I'd like to, you know, listen. I don't need to look at the stats to know that Joe DiMaggio was a contact hitter, probably better than anyone. What's not on here is what I mentioned before to him today is strikeouts.
Strikeouts are not on there, correct.
Yeah, I mean Joe DiMaggio struck out very rarely. He was one of those. The only one that probably less is Ted Williams. Um, being that kind of an amazing hitter, Ted Williams was probably a better hitter than Joe D. Um, I mean, uh, but Joe D was more of a household name. Joe D was a New York Yankee. Joe D was Italian in New York City.
He dated Marilyn Monroe,
He married Marilyn
married
Monroe
Marilyn Monroe.
after Henry Miller and was embarrassed by her behavior from time to time. And matter of fact, lots of stories when Marilyn was invited and Joe D invited over to Frank Sinatra's house, where they would sit around the table with Sam Giancano and others, and they would just like rip into Joe because he had nothing to say. And Marilyn was always ossified, so it made an interesting thing. I don't know how that match ever got together. Certainly, Joe probably didn't ask his mother, "Mom, should I marry her?" But it is an interesting story. As a side thing, when I'd met DiMaggio a few times and like autograph things, and other times too, but I was in an autograph show and I had these two Life magazines. He was the only professional baseball player that had been on Life magazine twice on the cover when Life was the biggest thing there was in the world.
Yeah.
And I have both of them, and they're both autographed by him, autographs I got myself. And
Wow.
the kid in front of me pulled out a picture of him putting flowers on Marilyn Monroe's grave, which he did very often. I forget how
I
often,
think
but
he did it either for her birthday or their anniversary every year. I think it was her
I don't
birthday.
I don't know, and asked him to sign it, and I thought he was gonna clock the kid. He refused, and the promoter, I think, tried to get him to do it, and he was like, "I'm Joe DiMaggio. I'm not signing it." Basically like, yeah, he is Joe DiMaggio, and he really is. I mean, he really was an amazing player. Like, besides having a 56 game hitting streak, I think right prior to that, he had a 48 game hitting streak or something in the 40s, if it's not the exact number. So, I mean, he was amazing. He treated there's no other player going to be like him. I don't care. Judge is more compatible to a Mickey Mantle to me than he is to a Joe DiMaggio. Um,
DiMaggio did that in 1941. That's incredible. And he
56.
followed that. I think he followed that with another. Yeah, the 56 game hit streak. And trying to remember the story. I know he had something going on, but then he had like another. I think 16 games in a row he hit after that. Um, I would defer to Dom. I can't remember the exact number of
Right.
games. But this is a guy who was, at one point in his career, he was hitting 400 and he got an eye infection. And I think it was the manager told him Yankees don't sit, and he finished the season hitting 380 something. It's an incredibly tough individual for sure. I know there's a lot of stories out there about who liked him, who he liked, who didn't like him. He was a hard ass. He was this real SOB, but he was a hell of a ball player. And Ted Williams said he was the best hitter he ever saw. So, the comparison that we're looking at again, two probably polar opposites in terms of personality as far as Yankees go. But the thing I found most interesting is the batting average and the RBIs. And again, this is not I'm not knocking Aaron Judge, and I don't want it to seem that way because I think if the Yankees' approach was different, Judge would still hit for average. But this era of baseball player is all about launch angle and hitting home runs. And the two things the Yankees tell you, well, the one thing they told you is strikeouts don't matter. And I think that's bullshit. And
So do I.
that's just their style of play. And when you look at, and again, I'm not knocking Aaron Judge because I think he's a world class athlete. And if the Yankees changed their mantra and they wanted him to get on base more, he'd still hit a shit ton of home runs. But I think his batting average would soar. And don't forget, last year on, I think it was May 5th, he was batting like 190. And then by the middle of June, he was hitting well over 400 at one point, 409, I think it was. So he's an incredibly talented baseball player, incredibly talented hitter, but the eras are completely different. And as far as today's athlete is concerned and the way they approach stuff, and I know Yankee fans love to beat their chest when certain guys hit home runs in the playoffs, yada, yada, yada. And if a guy doesn't hit, they cry and moan and he stinks and whatever. But that's, in my opinion, a product of the environment the Yankees have built, where they say strikeouts don't matter and they don't really take batting average into account for things. I heard somebody last week say that can we please remove batting average from the conversation when we're talking about Hall of Famers? Abso-freaking-lutely not. Okay, you want winners. Hitting the balls is it's the most important part of the game. Getting on base and driving in runs. And if you look at DiMaggio's numbers, he's about 50 points higher than Judge, and I think that's relatively close to where they are for their careers right now. Obviously, Judge's career is not over yet. I might be within 40 points. I have to
But
look that up.
you have to remember, and DiMaggio played pretty much with a dead ball, much
Oh
deader
yeah,
than the ball that we use today. And if you want to go back and look at a
and the
great
mound was higher. The pitchers had an incredible advantage back
right,
then.
you want to look at a great year of baseball. There's a book called Day by Day. There's a few books actually that are really worth reading. Dave Halberstam, he wrote a book called Summer of '49, where he goes into the golden age of baseball, the year that DiMaggio and the Yankees, they are about to enter this 5-year period of winning 5 World Series, which at that time was unheard of. I mean, if I remember correctly, Cle who where did I think Cleveland won in '48 and '54. I'm trying to remember where they had picked up the relief pitcher, Ali Super Chief Reynolds,
Allie
and
Reynolds, wow.
yeah, and then I met Ali Reynolds, had a lot of conversations with him about him. He told me a lot about what it was like to play with Mickey Mantle, how he came up as a rookie, he met him as a rookie, and what the amazing athletic ability had. But this book is a fantastic book, Summer of '49. The other book that he wrote that is also exceptional, also considers the Yankees, even though they didn't win the World Series that year, was October 1964, it's called, and it's about the Cardinals who represent the National League, have that National League mindset, and at that time had a lot of African American players, like most National League teams did, more than in the American leagues. So you had this team that was dominated by great black players as well as great white players. And you had the New York Yankees who had Mantle, who led, and so that led to the standard pitcher. Bob Gibson at that time was such a dominant pitcher against this switch hitter Mickey Mantle, still in a good part of his good career, about to go downhill. And so those are both great books about baseball. If you really want to read some great books. 49 I have. I think it's autograph. I don't think I have the author autograph, but I have he wrote some conversations. I think he wrote a chapter on Tommy Henrik, and I had met Tommy Henrik and he signed it. And I think he had written some other chapters about certain players, and I was lucky enough to have it autographed by them.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I don't know where the books are, but I know I have them somewhere in those boxes of crap I have in the back. So I know I got off the subject a little bit. But to me, you can't compare the two different kinds of hitters, Joe DiMaggio and Aaron Judge. I mean,
I do want to make a point that because I'm looking at the playoff numbers for those same years, those first 7 years. DiMaggio played. Now they only played in the World Series, right? They didn't have playoffs then. You won the league and you went to the World Series. So
I
it's a
don't remember
little,
what year the playoffs start.
yeah, it's a little skewed. But in his first 7 seasons in the playoffs, DiMaggio played only 29 games, and that's from age 21 to age 27. In that time, he had 119 at bats. He struck out 11 times and hit 303. Judge, in his first, from age, so it's a little skewed, but from 25 to 30, he played in 44 games, so 15 more games. And let's see, he had 171 at bats versus DiMaggio's 119. He struck out 66 times. His batting average was 211. So my argument is it does matter. Strikeouts and batting average matter. And
I
I'm not
agree,
knocking Judge at all
100%.
because that has been the Yankees' mantra. Strikeouts don't matter. A batting average is not that important. It's all about OPS and all these other ridiculous WAR, right? Whatever they come up with to justify their metrics to pay guys.
Right.
But the eyeball test doesn't fail. If you got a guy swinging for the fences every time he gets up and he's not trying to get on base or move the runners or play baseball the way it's supposed to be played, what do you expect? You're not going to win.
I agree.
And again, I'm not knocking Aaron Judge because I love him. I think he's great. And I think he'll play whatever kind of style you want him to play. And if the Yankees played it that way versus playing the way they do now, I think they'd be much more successful. And to further drive home the point, everybody's doing the same thing now. There are only 3 teams right now in the American League with a winning record. 3. 3 teams above 500.
So just as a footnote, 1903 was the first World Series. 1969, the playoffs officially introduced best of 5, National League against the American League, best of 5.
That was a league championship?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 69 when the Mets won, strangely enough, and also when so they had played, if I remember correctly, in 69, they played the Cubs, who were very good. You know, Ernie Banks, let's play 2. Um, in 85, they expanded it to best of 7. In 95, they introduced the division series with wild card when they realigned the three divisions. And then 2022 became 12 teams, best of 3 wild card series. I don't really get it, but okay. So, I mean, that's really where it's at. I don't really we got some Dom comments here. You ready? Other attributes of DiMaggio is the greatest base runner of all time. Yes, he was very good. I don't know if I could say the best. Parm rated equivalent to Bob Musilius when he first came up. Arm, LOL. Mets defeated the Braves in '69. Thank you for correcting me on that. He is correct.
Dom is conflicted.
I remember. I was a Met fan in '69.
Yeah,
So
Dom,
I remember, and if you really want to see a good book, I don't even know
Dom
if
was
it's in
not,
print.
nor was
I
he
know.
ever a Met fan.
I don't know if you really wanted to see a good book in print. I don't know if it's in print anymore. It's called The Year the Mets Lost Last Place, and it's a really good, go over of that year and that team. The Tommy Agee, Ron Swoboda, Tom Seaver, Jerry Kuzman. They had some great, even that year. You had Matlack, you had Nolan Ryan because he came up with the Mets. But he hadn't really came into his own at that point. A lot of other things took place. The Braves were a good team. They had Henry Aaron. The Braves were a good team, like they were. Speaking of that, Bobby Cox passed away, which is interesting because he was hired by Ted Turner, who just passed away too. Bobby Cox had some run with the Braves.
Incredible manager.
Yep.
Incredible baseball guy.
Had a hard time winning the big one. I mean, he ran into the Yankees at another time and place where they just had really
But the Braves were the Braves when they played the Yankees, right? They were coming off their only world championship. They were in the middle of their run, and it seemed like they had turned the corner and they were ready to rock, and they were the class of the league. And then the Yankees completely derailed them twice. But, what did we learn from that series? That you need a closer. You have to be able to finish games. Something the Yankees, I think, maybe learned this weekend in Milwaukee.
right.
Putrid, absolutely putrid.
I mean, they had some pitching when they were playing.
Their starting pitching was second to none, for sure.
When in 95, 96 or 96, you want to say, when the Yanks beat them and they really shouldn't. That was a crazy year, right? I'm just pulling it up. I mean, that was a crazy year. Wasn't there a stoppage because of contract and they played two halves? I'm sure, Dom, you can correct me on that too. So
in 95, you talking about?
Yeah, 96. So here's 96 Braves. Here's their pitching. Okay. John Smoltz,
Tom Glavine.
Hall of Famer, right? Won a Cy Young. I don't know. Greg Maddux, 15-4. So Smoltz went 24-8 with a 2.94 ERA. Greg Maddux was 15-4, 2.72 ERA. Tom Glavine, 15-10, 2.98 ERA. Oh, and the fourth pitcher, Steve Avery. He didn't have a great year that year. He was 7-10, but still. And then they had two other right-hand pitchers. I don't know who they were. But
didn't they have
Clounce?
I want to say
and
who was it?
Borowski. Brad Clounce and Joe Borowski.
No, I don't remember.
So
I thought for some reason I thought they had Martinez.
And that, there was some, whatever you want to say about George Steinbrenner, whatever he broke out of his mold that year, where he started grabbing at the, I don't know, was Wade Boggs there that year? But he had all
in 95, 95 or
96.
Yeah, he was, yeah. Because Boggs came in like 93, I think. 92, 93.
So here they are. They had Girardi and Leritz as catchers, 96 key players.
They had
outfielders Bernie Williams, Paul O'Neill, Tim Raines, Darryl Strawberry, Gerald Williams, and Louis Soho. Pitchers, Andy Pettit, David Cohn, Mariano Rivera, but he was a setup guy because they had John Wetland. Remember?
Yep.
Jimmy Key, Dwight Gooden, David Weathers, Graham Lloyd, Jeff Nelson, Kenny Rogers, and Bob Whitman. Joe Torre was the manager who was first. Rookie of the year that year, Derek Jeter. World Series MVP, John Wetland. So, and Tito Martinez replaced Don Mattingly. Oh, stab me in the heart. That year,
yeah,
if you remember.
Just had to stick that one in there, didn't you?
So I'm guessing Boggs maybe came up the next year.
No, Boggs was there. Boggs had that huge walk in that series. Boggs was there in either 92 or 93. I'm trying to remember when they were, because they got him and they got O'Neal, right? I want to say 92.
I don't see him on here. Deion James. I don't see him on here. Oh yeah, he
Boggs
was.
came to the Yankees.
Here's the batting.
90,
Here's the batting order. Ready? Joe Girardi leading off, and I remember, you think about John Sterling. I remember John Sterling used to do on his night show. He used to say, "Yep, Joe Girardi, he's going to be the savior. We made a play for a big player, Joe Girardi." Meanwhile, he turned out being great for them. So it was Girardi, Tino Martinez, Mariano Duncan, Jeter, Boggs, Gerald Williams, Bernie Williams, Paul O'Neill, Ruben Sierra.
Sierra?
Yeah. This is exactly it.
That commercial.
Yeah. So, here's the where are the batting averages? Average. Girardi was batting .294. Okay. So probably the best
tell me
year.
again, batting average doesn't matter. The Yankees catcher today is hitting under 200.
Tino Martinez, .292. Mariano Duncan, .340.
340. That's incredible.
Yeah, he didn't have many games. How many games? Oh, he had 109. Derek Jeter, 314.
And he was great defensively.
Wade Boggs, 311. No joke, Boggs.
Pedestrian year for Boggs.
Gerald Williams, 270. Bernie Williams, 309.
309.
I'm sorry, 304. 305. Paul O'Neill, 302. And Ruben Sierra, 258.
Hitting cleanup or fifth. Switch hitting. DH.
How do you...
Can't beat that.
And the only all-star on the team? Wade Boggs. I don't know, maybe a pitcher, but the only player, so... John Wetland was an all-star, too.
I don't think, did they have anybody on that roster have over 25 or 30 home runs? I don't think so.
Home runs. Girardi had 2. Tino Martinez had 25. Mariano Duncan had 8. Jeter had 10. Boggs had 2. He'd lost his power at that point.
Yeah, but he was never
Gerald Williams had 5. Bernie Williams had 29.
29.
Paul O'Neill had 19, and Ruben Sierra had 11.
Absolutely incredible. They were a fun team to watch, man.
So I'm looking at the other players. So wait, here's the list of the other players. The non-starters. Jimmy Leyritz, who had an attitude problem, always thought himself he was the greatest player on the planet.
He's a funny dude.
So wait to hear here's the guys sitting on a bench.
Strawberry.
Jim Leyritz, Tim Raines, Darryl Strawberry, Cecil Fielder, Andy Fox, Ruben Rivera.
Wow, Andy Fox.
Married Aldretti?
Mike Aldretti.
Mike Aldretti,
Yeah.
Charlie Hayes,
I
Matt
don't think they'll
Howard,
trade
Louis
Charlie
Theron,
Hayes.
Pat Kelly. Remember him?
Pat Kelly.
Second baseman.
I think he
Robert
was left off the
Enholm,
playoff roster that year.
Jose Posada,
Oh, right. Jorge
Deion
Posada. They had
James.
3 catchers.
Yeah.
They had 3. Laris was the 3rd catcher.
So where were the batting averages? So Leritz was batting 264. Obviously, they played less games,
Laris
88.
was really, I mean, he played 3 or 4 different positions. He could play everywhere, you know.
Tim Raines was batting 284. 60 games he played. Imagine have a guy come off the bench, he's batting 264. 284. 262, Gerald Strawberry played 63 games. Cecil Fielder, 260. I'm going to skip around here. Ruben Rivera batted 284 that year, 46 games. Michael Andretti, 250. Charlie Hayes batted 284, played 20 games, but not for anything. Amazing. They had all these guys coming off, and I thought that was a great move by Steinberg. Wins and losses. Let's look here.
That's another thing a lot of people don't realize about that team
Andy
versus
Pettit.
today's teams.
Andy Pettit came in second in the Cy Young, was an all-star, and 14 in the
20 games that year.
MVP. 21-8. Kenny Rogers. Remember, Kenny Rogers was a great pitcher until he came to the Yankees. And then I think he left and he became a good pitcher again. He was 12-8. Dwight Gooden was 11-7. Jimmy Key, remember him? 12-11. Cone 7-2. And Romero Mendoza 4-5. And then you had, here's the relievers: Wetland, Rivera, Wickman, Jeff Nelson, who wasn't that bad.
No, he was really good. Yeah.
And Dale Poley.
Jeff Nelson, another guy with a violent windup, you know, long, tall dude.
And they had other.
Mendoza was really long, middle relief. He was instrumental. I mean, they had a guy for everything, that team.
They had a bunch of other guys
They
hanging
had a
out.
guy for everything. I mean, that team was really steep, you know. I mean, I know that, and you think about the money they spent on players to have them on the bench. Teams don't do that today. You just don't see that. You know, I think that's where a lot of these, you know, it's hard to compare even those 2 eras because all the money's on the field today. We
Well,
don't
hold on.
have guys sitting on the bench that are future Hall
Right.
of Famers.
Right. So wait, maybe that's the structure. Maybe they're right. That's the structure of how things go. Maybe it's wrong. What? Ready for the coaching staff? You want to know why these guys won? You just heard the players. You want to hear the coaching staff?
I hope Dom's not listening.
Joe Torre. I know.
Clueless Joe, they called him in the paper when they hired him.
Who's that? Your mother that wants to have Bernie Williams on?
Oh, she wants Bernie to be the manager. Yeah.
So Joe Torre, bench coaches. Don Zimmer, batting coach.
Mel Stottlemyre,
Chris Chanlis, pitching
first base
coach.
coach.
Mel Stottlemyre, Willie Randolph, Jose
Third base.
Cardinale, and Tony Cloninger. I mean,
Jose Cardinale, yeah.
what do you want to say
Chambliss
about
was the hitting coach, right? And first base coach? Or was he hitting coach and Cardinale was first base coach?
Remember Chambliss hit that big home run when they really needed it?
Another game I watched at my grandparents' house when I was little. Another traumatic event. Positive trauma.
So, Dom wanted to remind us that Boggs rode the horse in Yankee Stadium after
With the
game
fur
6.
coat. That's right.
So that's that's only 96. Let's look at, I don't know why we're on a sidetrack now. Might as well keep going. Yankee roster 97.
Yeah, 97. You know, they just got beat by the Indians. I mean, the Indians just and the Yankees got it. They were there right at the end too. Paul O'Neill hit that double off the wall that I think he and everybody else thought was a home run, and he wasn't running hard from the start, and he still made it a double, and the Yanks couldn't get back in the game. In the '95, Buck Showalter and they didn't know that what they had in Mariano Rivera closing out games. I can't say that
All right, you
they
ready
would
for
have went to the
this?
World Series that year, but that was a tough loss in the wild card.
You ready for the batting averages in 97? Girardi, leadoff, 264. What was he, 290 before? Martinez, 296. Luis Soho.
No, that can't be the lineup.
Luis, it
That's
is. It is the lineup.
By position, not by batting order.
No, by position. You're right.
Yeah.
Luis Soho, is it? Sojoo?
Luis Soho.
Luis Soho. He batted 307. Jeter was batting 297. Charlie Hayes is batting 258. Tim Raines is batting 321.
Incredible.
Bernie Williams is batting 328. Paul O'Neill's 324. And Cecil Fielder's as DH, he's 260. What do you want to say about that? Home runs? Let's look at that just to aggravate myself.
Was Strawberry out that year?
Martinez had 44.
He was out that year, wasn't he?
Strawberry only played 11 games.
He played 96, and then he came again in 98. Was he?
Yeah,
probably. I'm trying to remember where he was in 97, if he was on the roster or not.
He was in rehab.
Yeah.
All right, so let's look at pitching that year. Pitching that year was the first year Mariano came in because Stanton, what's his name, Wetfield went somewhere else. So Andy Pettit, he was 18-7. David Wells, 16-10. David Cohn, 12-6. And Dwight Gooden, 9-5. That was the 5 rotation. And you had others.
Yeah, Strawberry only played 11 in 1997.
You had Hideki Arabu. Remember, he came over. He was 5-4. So, you had, the relief pitchers. You had Rivera. You had Romero Rendoza, Jeff Nelson, Mike Stanton, and Graham Lloyd. So that's a different full season roster. Same coaches. Let's go one more. 98. Was that the year they won?
98, they were just a machine.
That's the year
total machine. 114 wins, yeah.
Yeah. So now you have Posada catching because he came into his own. He batted 268. Martinez, 281. Chuck Knobloch. Nobody in the world yelled more Chuck Knobloch in the stadium than I did. I just felt his head was never in the game. 265.
He was very aloof, yes.
Derek Jeter.
Incredible leadoff hitter, though. I mean, the guy took a ton of pitches, fouled off a lot of pitches. He got every dollar in each at bat for sure.
I swear to God, I thought I was going to get thrown out of the stadium one day. I was sitting down right behind home plate, and I was yelling at him because he would like miss a horrible swing, miss the ball. I'd be like, "What are you watching? What are you doing?" And then the catcher drops the third strike, and he doesn't even run to first. He's like lollygagging, looking around, and I'm like
screaming.
I'm screaming, "Don't you pay attention?" Whatever. By the way, the dugout's over there. I was crazy. I was crazy. So yeah, and this
We
is a
should probably not go to a baseball game together.
I don't do that anymore. I'm a man of. It's not the way I roll.
Oh,
I'm
I
cool.
get abusive for sure.
I'm cool under
Not anymore. Yeah, now that I'm older, sure.
the the. I want to say that was pretty much. So once we went to a Yankee game, and my friend was just totally crazy with my friend Bill and John. John had just had I left and they had an accident in a car at a DWI where the guy fractured his jaw and had his jaw wired shut
Oh my God.
because he had broken his jaw, fractured his skull.
Jesus.
And Billy was in the back and he had a neck brace on. So they decided we're going to go to the Yankee game. Me and them two. And it was the Kansas City Royals, and Billy wore a Kansas City Royal hat.
With his with his neck brace.
So I'm sitting there like winking, blinking, and nod in the game. First thing, somebody yells something about the Royals. He starts screaming at him. The guy takes his beer and throws it at Billy. Of course, he hits John with the broken thing.
Oh
and
my God.
And John's got his hands, and John's drinking beer through a straw. He drinks so much beer he can't drive home. And he's sitting with a wire cutter in his hand the whole time because if he had to throw up, he had to cut the wires on his jaw.
Oh my God.
And I got these guys in the car on the way home.
That's a disaster. Oh my God.
And he's like, oh my God, I'm going to throw up. I'm going to throw up. He's got the wire cutters in his hand. We're driving home from the Yankee game. He's like, pull over. And he's got the wire cutters in his hand. And it never happened because if he cut it, he had to go another 2 months start over again.
Oh my God.
Your mother's still talking about Joe D. We moved on from that. He had no personality.
I think my mother has more Yankee childhood trauma than I do, and they used to win back then. She could tell you stories about my grandfather bouncing the TV off the floor.
That's great.
He had some colorful commentary when I was a youth.
My grandfather, we used to watch the Met games in like 60s, early 60s. Now, yeah, we had this little 19-inch, television that was in my parents' bedroom that nobody ever watched. And he would go in there and watch the game and curse and like whatever. And then afterwards he would say, don't tell grandma that I cursed. And whatever. So he would flip out. He was a Dodger fan, and my originally, and my dad was a New York Giant fan because he grew up in Harlem. So we watched a lot of. We only went to I told you this already, but we only went to the Mets because that was all I could get free tickets for because we couldn't afford the bite. First time I went there was I told the story. I'm not telling it again. So, but anyway, so yeah, they had a bad accident. John was DOA when the cops got there. His father had bought him a brand new Honda Prelude, and for graduation, they were wealthy. And I was like sweeping floors. I was penniless, and we go out drinking, and we're going to this place called the Barn. It's still there. It's this barn that's a bar in the middle of a residential neighborhood, and they're not allowed to put any signs or anything. There's a light bulb on a tree. And when you see that light bulb, you have to turn down that little roadway, and the bar is back there. So only the locals knew. You never had any other people. And we'd been there and whatever. And I left. They were drinking. John was driving, and he almost killed himself. And I don't mean to make light of it. And the girl he met at the bar.
Oh my goodness.
They both, whatever. So when I went to see him, hospital. In the room next to him was the girl who had a broken jaw and a fractured skull.
Oh my God.
And I walk in to see how she's doing because I had met her once or twice. Or I met her that night, and I went in there to see how she was. First of all, her father was in there, and I was like, "Oh, I'm a friend of John's," and he's like, wanted to kill me. I mean, this is his daughter. You know, you can only
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is he felt so bad that he realized he needed to straighten that out. So what he did is he married her, and they were married and had 4 kids, and they almost killed each other about 17 times.
Oh my God.
And the moral of the story is don't drink and drive.
Don't
So
drink and drive.
don't drink and drive.
Yeah.
So you should have seen she wouldn't go out with him. She was so mad at him. She wouldn't go out. And he finally went up. Then then they didn't want to tell the father. Oh, it was a great time. I was like a fly on the wall through everything. That's the moral of the story. And so back to baseball. Who knows what's going to happen this year? I hope that the Mets get their act together, something fierce.
Yeah, I'm not ready to write them off. I know they have the worst record in baseball. Um,
They shouldn't, though.
I'm a believer in them winning and then the Yankees beating them because it hurts more, kind of thing. Dom, can't breathe at night when the Mets win, even in April. So he's had the best April he's ever had. We've seen teams. I still don't know how their managers survived, but we've seen teams come from worst to first before. I don't know if the Mets are built for that, but yeah, it's shaping up to be a long season for them for sure. But I'm
Yeah.
really more worried about the Yankees winning because they're in a window right now. We may not have baseball next year. Most likely, we're not going to have baseball next year. And everybody was pounding their chest the last month and a half. The Yankees are this, the Yankees are that. The Yankees look like the '98 Yankees. And the whole time I'm saying to myself, it's freaking April. Pump the brakes. This is not the '98 Yankees. And in the last 3 seasons, we've seen this team win 60, 70 games by July, and then July and August happen, and they're like limping to the end of the to even win a division. So they got a long way to go. They have a terrible bullpen. It was on full display in Milwaukee this weekend. Um, they're a long way away from being uh, anywhere near the '90s Yankees. But again, they're in the window. I'm hoping that somewhere, somehow, some way, Brian Cashman can make a move or two to get some bullpen help and some real bullpen help in here. And we kind of throw the sabermetrics out the window and get guys that can actually play baseball to fill out the rest of this roster. I mean, they got 4 guys in the starting lineup. And if you count Spencer Jones, I think it's 5, which is just incredible. 4 guys hitting under 200. I don't think, I mean, it's unacceptable. And to think that your team is good with 4 guys hitting under 200, I'm sorry. I'm just not I'm not a believer. You're talking about guys that hit under 200, talking about guys like IKF and Joey Gallo and Aaron Hicks and the likes of that. I don't want no part of that. I want baseball players that can hit. I want guys you can count on every at bat. Do they have to hit 400? No. They don't even have to hit 300. But I want them to be in every at bat. I'm just tired of seeing terrible baseball and people thinking that, oh, this team is great. They're not. They're just not.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. I was just looking at Jorge Posada. So his lifetime batting average 270. Good.
Posada, really, 273? Good for him. I didn't think
Yep.
it was that high. 270, yeah, I guess so. I guess I must have thought it was like 260s.
He played
Oh,
17
he was a
years.
gamer. He really
17
came a
years.
long way. I think he got tougher every year behind the plate. And he was a heart and soul guy. He really honed his craft as he went along. Late in his career, he had the resurgence. He hit over 300, I think, towards the end there one year.
So 2011 was his last year. So 2007. So about 10 years when he's starting, about 10 years in, he batted 338. And that's the only time he batted over 300 for the season.
yeah, he had
Though he
a
came
couple of
close a
exceptional
couple
years.
times. Oh, I'm sorry, 2010. He played 120 games and he batted, oh no, 248. I'm looking at the wrong column.
I think it was '09. He hit 285, but he was above 300 for a little while there. Yeah, he was always, he never gave at bats away. Not the type of player that gave at bats away, and that's what you want, in my
And he
opinion,
was
for
a
the
good
Knicks.
catcher.
And he was a good catcher.
So Andy Pettit, let's look at him too. Andy Pettit, wins and losses 256, 153. I mean, that's really good. I mean, did have
He's
some
over
issues.
100 wins more than losses, which is an incredible feat, I think, in my opinion. Left the Yankees and won 20 games for Houston, right?
He left and came back to the Yankees. Left the
That
Yankees.
was a really, if Pettit and Clemens don't leave in 2004, the Yankees don't lose to the Red Sox in '04. Dom mentioned that last week. I'm a believer in that. They got rid of two good teammates, two guys that were good friends, two guys that were good clubhouse guys, obviously front end of the rotation guys, and they brought in Kevin Brown and Kenny Lofton, and that absolutely destroyed their clubhouse. And if you watch the documentary on Derek Jeter, the captain, Cashman says, "Well, in 2009, we knew that we had to get somebody in here that was a team guy and a clubhouse guy and a blah, blah, blah." And I'm thinking to myself, why did you get rid of Pettit? Why did you let Clemens go? And he was talking about CC Sabathia, who was every bit of that, for sure. His teammates loved him, good clubhouse guy, solid guy all around, respected throughout the league. But those 3 years that Pettit spent in Houston was an absolute detriment to the Yankees, the whole organization, as far as I'm concerned. And it cost us in '04, without question.
So
Him
wait a
alone, but him and Clemens leaving, going to Houston was just the
minute.
Yankees. Shame on them for letting that happen. Shame on them for bringing in those two bums, who everybody. I mean, they were just terrible. They were not good clubhouse guys. That everybody knew it coming in. And they didn't have to go there. And
This is like a
I guess you could
two-parter.
blame George for that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's I don't. But that was a huge mistake in the.
Okay, so let's talk about somebody else. Bernie Williams. Bernie Williams, all right? He played how many years?
He
16
played
years.
through '06, right? 17, 18
16
seasons.
years. So, you know what his lifetime batting average is? 297.
Yeah.
5 more points, 3 more
Tell
points.
me again.
Is he
Tell me
not a
again. Batting average
is not
doesn't matter.
is not a Hall of Famer? And he's got 287 home runs. So he's got both. I mean, 300 home runs is respectable for a regular hitter. For a hitter, I mean, lifetime he is.
Switch hitter. Switch hitter.
Yeah, it doesn't say how many he did from the right and left, but let's look at his average. So is in the playoffs.
Oh, it's got to be well above 300, I'm sure.
So in '95,
yeah.
when that's when they lost, he batted 5 games, 429. In '86, he batted 345. He didn't play well in '97
Nobody
or
did.
'98. 99, he was 279. 2000, he was 273, then 279. Then he was 220 in 2001, which was a weird year, obviously. 2002, and they almost won that. Came down to the last out in the last game. 2002, he batted 333. In 2003, batted 318. In 2004, he batted .296, and then it fell off from there. But, the whole team fell apart after that. So, but that's Cashman for you. I mean, I can't really believe that he's still the GM. I don't really want to go over it 100 times, but I can't believe he's still the GM.
Well, I I'm not defending him, but there's certain things he does very well that
Like
I think
going,
with the right ownership, he would serve well. But the way the organization is now, they're on cruise control. And it's all about sabermetrics and analytics. And Michael Fishman runs that department. He's got 20 guys under him, and they tell Cashman who to get, and he gets them. And Hal Steinbrenner is okay with that process. And
well, it's money to
I
them. I mean, they don't have, I mean, Hal, I'm not saying he's not a baseball person. I don't know. But he's not a
I don't
dad,
think he is.
and nobody is. And it's all about money, and it's an asset. So
Yeah.
they're not, listen, his father liked him, don't like him, whatever you want to say about him. He wanted to win his way, but he still wanted to win. And we'll leave it at that.
He wanted to win his way, though, for sure. He wanted the credit. That's why everybody got fired post. That's how Cashman got his job, essentially.
Right. All right. So I think we can leave it there. We've run through the Yankee annoying analytics 1,000 times every week. We end up back there. All roads lead back to analytics. Having said that, please like and subscribe. It's an hour and a half in. I'm sure you've all turned it off by now, but for my mother would be the only one that's listening, but she's not.
Don't
with us
forget to
anymore.
check us out on Twitter or X at Sports Live Pod.
Yeah, and also at StephenJustin.com. Please like and subscribe. We need to get some more people. Okay. Anything else?
Very good.
Good.
Thanks, Steve. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week. And I think this is a much better show than last week where I couldn't remember the names of the players. Thank you.